What do you guys think this bird weighs? Let's have some guesses. 10 pounds, okay. Another guess? 15 pounds, okay. Anybody else? Go ahead. 9 pounds, okay. 4 pounds. I'll give you a hint. You're all way too heavy. Way too heavy. So the hint is that feathers make birds look much, much bigger and heavier than they really are. Because remember, they got to get off the ground and fly from their predators. Go ahead. Now you're talking. Now you're talking. Okay. Now the thing is, with birds of prey, one thing to remember is a female and a male are always going to be a little different in terms of their size. The female is always bigger. She has a super important job. What is that? Yeah, and then sitting on them, and if anything were to happen to her partner, she's got to do all that and still get through. Okay? And defend against predators. So the male in the birds of prey are always smaller. Yes, it is. This is our smallest falcon in Massachusetts. But do not be fooled. This creature is very close to my heart because she reminds me of a terrier. When I first learned to do this type of work, I was outside with her on my hand, and there was a bunch of robins in the area, which are a little bigger than her. And they know who she is, and that she's a bird of prey, and they didn't want her anywhere near their nest. So they were trying to dive bomb us. And she did not care one bit. She sat there on my hand. Yeah, come get me. Not afraid at all. Very fierce little creatures, which all the falcons are. Okay. I have heard reports of people seeing these guys pick up rats that are large. It's a very large meal, which is not typical for this type of animal. She would be eating insects and smaller rodents, small mice, but don't underestimate them. Okay. So, do you want to tell us about the different falcons that are in the area?
Yeah, so the largest falcon that you might see around it is, of course, the peregrine falcon. This is a endangered species, but it has been recently moving into the city of Boston because although it usually likes to nest in very high cliffs, they recently figured out that a building, well, a sky crane, is very similar to a high cliff. So they have been actually laying their eggs on tall buildings and hunting pigeons within the city. And I'm going to walk around in a second with a American Kestrel skull, and for comparison, the peregrine falcon as well. So you can kind of see the difference in size between these two birds.
So this American Kestrel is a female. We can tell the difference between a male and a female kestrel because the male would be much more blue and bright in his coloring than her. Do you guys watch sports? Yeah. Anything about her face remind you of what sports people do? Yeah, we don't touch it.
the only thing I wanted to see.
We'll talk about that in a second. When football players are on the field, what do they do with their faces? Yes, they put black paint. Why do they do that? Yeah, so they can see better. Yeah, where do you think they got the idea? Okay, so these guys are daytime hunters. They're not like owls. So those marks on their face can help her in the same way that a football player does. So a lot of times we get ideas about how to live our lives from nature. That's just one of them. Questions about, anybody ever heard of a kestrel before? Is this the first time?
American kestrel.
Yeah. So they have declined in numbers. slowly, and some of that may be due to predation, meaning that other animals are eating them because they are small and they can be eaten by larger birds of prey. Habitat is very important to this bird. So this is more of a field bird. It will need like farm type areas that might have trees around the edge where it can hang out and then be searching for its food in the more grassland type of habitats. However, there is some very interesting research that's going on that people got this idea. They started looking at highways and they noticed that these birds maybe could use that useless strip of land that nobody cares about in between the highways, between the north and southbound or east and west. And so they did an experiment where they started putting nest boxes up on the signs, the road signs. And there was some concern, would they know enough to stay out of the way of the traffic? But it was worth a try. And the podcast that I happened to listen to was going on out in the Midwest, but I know that it's been done in other locations. And what they found is that there was a very high success rate of the babies in their very first year of the boxes being on the signs, which was a really good indication that something could be done to help these numbers be increased by using land that nobody maybe cares about. So sometimes habitat, human and habitat conservation can be in a way that we don't necessarily know. We gotta think outside the box for what these guys need, so maybe we're all sharing the same space in a better way. Other things that you can do to help birds, so in a highway situation, a lot of times they will evade the cars, but we do see a lot of birds hit on the side of the road, so what is that about? So I have a friend who says, well, you know, I have an apple core, it composts, it's okay to throw it out the window. And in theory, that's true, okay? But the problem is that piece of compost will probably attract animals that want to eat it. And then while those animals are eating that, another bird of prey may try to go for that animal. And if all that is taking place along the side of a road, that is one way that animals can be hit. So, easy thing that you can do that can help them is to keep your waste in a place that's away from the side of the road. And also, rodent poison is something that's difficult for birds of prey. 85% of the birds of prey that have autopsies done on them have poison in them. It's a very high rate. We're bringing around some owl feathers because there's a really important difference between owls and birds that dive in the water. Through evolution, owls gave up their ability to be water repellent in order to be silent, to catch their prey and sneak up on it. They have very special parts of their feathers on the front of their wing that stick up that allow them to fly very, very silently. But they get very soggy in bad weather, so they need to be able to get into things like trees and other habitats to get out of the weather. Especially things like the barred owl, who I'll bring out in a minute, or a screech owl, who's going to also raise their babies in those cavities of trees. And some of our wildlife that we do have at the Trailside Museum are from trees that have been cut down. Okay? And these are animals that survive. Do you want me to bring out that other animal? Okay. Any more falcon questions before I bring out the owl? Okay, so this is, for those of you who just came in, my name is Karen and this is Joel. We're from the Trailside Museum in Milton. We're a part of Mass Audubon. And this is an American kestrel, which is the smallest falcon in Massachusetts. They're hard to find. They need farmland for habitat.
Which we're about to take out.
I'll bring out, so she'll come back out in a little bit. But I did bring 3 birds today.
So kind of demonstrating how the wings are very soft, and the reason for that is because At night, it can be a lot more quiet, and they need to be silent when they're flying. So when this guy flaps, he flaps completely silent. You can't hear anything, and not even a mouse, which has very good hearing, can hear this guy coming. Yeah, this guy's thriving, the great horned owl, the screech owl's thriving, and so is the barred owl, which we're about to take out. But yeah, there are some individuals, like the snowy owl, for example. I guess I can touch a real owl. This guy is thriving, great horn.
So if you want to take pictures, it's fine, but please no flash. I should say that for each bird. So this is, can everybody hear me okay? This is a barred owl, B-A-R-R-E-D. And she gets her name from what? What do you think? Good guess. Her plumage is kind of like bars. So her name kind of makes sense for how she looks. One of the things that we don't get to control are the names that these guys get. So if you've heard of a screech owl, screech owls don't screech. They make a really beautiful sound, actually. It may sound more like a pony or a trillium. The sound of a screech owl is... That's what you're going to hear. So if you can hear that in your neighborhood at night or at dusk, you might be hearing screech owls. Just like her, screech owls, barred owls, and great horned owls all live in your neighborhoods around here. They are native to our area, and they live here all year long. They do not need to migrate. Okay? Snowy owls, which do come here during our winter from the Arctic between November and March, are migrating owls. They are bigger, but they don't stay year-round. They go back to the Arctic during our summer because it's too warm for them. Okay? But about the barred owl. So if we look at her plumage or her feathers, where do you think she might like to live? Obviously she lives around here, but what kind of habitat? Any ideas?
Cold.
Yes, okay. So she does use a nest in a tree. Excellent. So what kind of trees near a field or in a forest? What do you think? Absolutely right. Yes. So she likes to be near a forest, okay? Where it's dense and near water is important for her because of the things that she likes to eat. So froggies are a really yummy tasting thing for this type of owl, and that's not maybe on every owl's diet, but being near a water source is useful for this owl. Not that it's going to dive into the water, but it's more the creatures that might inhabit the water and be along the edges that she's interested in, which is a little different than, say, a great horned owl that may be going more for rodents and other birds of prey that are smaller. A great horned owl one thing that I mentioned earlier, if you weren't here, is that birds have a terrible sense of smell. So one of the things that and you'll know this when I tell you, because a great horned owl will eat a skunk as a meal. That would be pretty nasty if you had a good sense of smell. So that says how bad their sense of smell is. If you're willing to eat a skunk, tells you something about how big of a meal the great horned owl is interested in and how big a great horned owl is itself, because it can go after this bird as a meal if it wants to. How much do you think she weighs?
2 pounds.
2 pounds. Any other guesses?
8.
3 pounds.
Half a pound.
Half a pound.
6. 6.
You win the prize. So she is about 2 pounds, which is kind of deceiving for her size.